answer the demand to provide them to support our statements that Sebastian has a history of unprofessionalism in prior communications while still maintaining the maximum possible integrity of the privacy of the conversations. So earlier today, Gamers Nexus announced that they're going to be launching another channel. And I looked into it and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. They're doing an investigative channel, a secondary channel. And I was trying to think of why they would do this. They did bring up that they're trying to split the content, but I actually think that the reason that they're trying to split the content is more to protect their own ass. Earlier today, I made a community post talking about how I thought it was funny that Gamers Nexus got 18,000 subs on a no video channel right out of the gate. And I was like, Gamers Nexus is on God mode. And one of my good subs, Shadow Errors, shout out to you, commented down below, kind of crapping on Linus. He's not a fan of him. And we went back and forth, and it reminded me to go and check some latest Linus stuff out. I just wanted to see what he was up to. I didn't realize that a couple of days prior, he had called out Gamers Nexus pretty silently. And he did this in an LMG clip and on the WAN show. So if you missed the WAN show and you didn't see the LMG clip, it's not on the main LTT channel or Short Circuit or any of the other channels. So it's not like major news just yet. It'll probably blow up within the next couple hours. I have no idea. I'm just covering this on a tiny channel. So drop a sub if you enjoy this stuff. I usually do real testing of things, and this is coming up pretty soon. But anyways, back to the content. Let me show you guys some of this clip real quick.
Time for someone else to be held accountable. Earlier this week, Gamers Nexus took us out of context again, and I can't keep ignoring this sort of thing.
Linus recently in a WAN show episode said the following regarding why they did not make a video when they found out about the way Honey works years ago, in response to how he believed he might be perceived if he had raised awareness to Honey's actions when his team discovered them.
Everyone's mad at me. It's that simple. I'm spreading the word for the smaller creators. That argument doesn't save me there, and it's not going to save me if I tell people to uninstall this extension that gets them a better deal so that smaller creators can get their affiliate revenue.
Well, that's the video we're making right now. And if that were to result in backlash like he thinks it would, then so be it.
Even if we ignore how disingenuous it is to compare the climate today and what we know today to the climate years ago when we originally dropped our Honey sponsorship, our regular viewers will know that I provided additional context that dramatically changes the meaning of that quote. I mean, I don't expect everyone to agree with my viewpoint. It's very clear that not everybody does. But what I do expect is for it to be fairly represented. And this particular instance of misquoting is bad enough that many from Steve's own community have used words to describe it like disappointing, misleading, disingenuous, and strawman.
So regardless of where you stand, whether you're on Steve's side or LTT side or somewhere in the middle, where I find myself to be often, I would say that that clip from Steve felt a little bit out of line with the fact that when this whole Honey scam thing came about, and if you guys don't know, please look up Honey scam. It's a very interesting thing. Essentially, Honey/PayPal is stealing content creators' money due to affiliate links and cookies. It's a little bit complex, but I'll leave a different video link down below if you want to watch that. Essentially, Linus is saying that his old video is not really relevant to today's what they know today about Honey and how the scam works. They didn't know that much. They just didn't believe in it. I remember years ago when I watched Linus a lot more before he was kind of Mr. Beast content. He definitely called out Honey a couple of times. I remember it on the WAN show. I remember it multiple times. They've talked about it a bunch, but they never were able to pinpoint exactly what was happening, and there wasn't enough information. And this is not me being a Linus shill or anything. I actually stopped watching Linus due to the Mr. Beast style stuff. I still occasionally watch the WAN show, or if I see like a video that's really interesting, I'll click on it. But for the most part, like, I have grown to enjoy a lot of the Gamers Nexus stuff, mostly from my coverage of other things on my channel. I learn a lot from Gamers Nexus. Now, he's also a little over the top sometimes. Like, sometimes we don't need to know the smallest like decimal point of a fan spinning to say we should buy it or not. There's so many things, right? And that being said, let's get back to the actual problem here. So Linus is now calling out Gamers Nexus for last year's video. So he's saying that he did a bad job at covering this content.
It's determined by collaboration and consensus between peers in the industry. Look, if Steve wants to do his own thing and call himself a YouTuber with strong moral fiber, that's his opinion, and he's entitled to it, and you're entitled to agree or disagree. But if he wants to use words like ethics or investigative journalism, then there are objective standards that he needs to uphold, and he doesn't get to decide when they're important and when they're not.
So what Linus is talking about here is the right to reply. This is a journalistic thing that people do in the world of journalism. I don't really follow it, but for the most part, basically it says, if I'm going to post a content piece on you, if I'm going to say something, whatever it is, write an article, that you are going to be sent that information first to say, hey, listen, we're doing this piece on you, and you have a word, you have the right to say something about it, maybe if something's wrong or right, and we're going to post it anyways. There are a lot of companies like TMZ and these other brands that just don't care, and they always do quick, like paparazzi style stuff. They'll post anything at all. Steve is kind of getting called out for that here by Linus. I am not saying that Linus is correct or Steve is correct here. For the most part, I think that when you're posting a hit piece video, it's a little tough to go and send that video to the person you're making it on, because you got to remember that Steve originally kind of phrased this video like, we want LTT to do better, we're trying to help them, but then he kind of hit them real hard. And Linus even brings up things like defamation and all these other things in this video, so we'll get to that in a little bit too. But for the most part, Linus is pissed that he didn't have the right to reply, which could actually also ruin the viewership of the video for Steve. It's a very complicated thing.
Segment will also include the following letter that is addressed to you. Steve, we do our best around here to do what we believe is right and to stand up for the consumer. That leads to us doing journalisty things sometimes, and I understand basic journalistic principles, but I'm not a journalist and I've never claimed to be. The reason I'm sending this to you then is not because I'm some journalist reaching out for comment, but out of respect, and because I was once a collaborator and supporter, and I hope to be again someday. For that to happen, though, I do have some requests. Everyone is human, and we all make mistakes, but I believe that for you to become the journalist you aspire to be, there are some errors in both your approach and in your coverage that are large enough to merit correction. Obviously, not everything needs to be pulled. Your methods aside, it's clear you were right about a lot of things in August of 23. But it's also clear that between the conjecture, editorialization, and what I hope are simply errors rather than lies, a number of retractions are in order, both on that piece and in your other coverage. This isn't just for me, but also for your community who looks to you to do the right thing. As for the personal side of things, I can't ask you to like me. You clearly disagree on a personal, moral basis with some things I do. Which of them are real and which of them are performative, I'm actually not sure anymore. But it doesn't matter. That's your personal compass, and you got to follow it. What does matter is treating others in the industry with respect and being prepared to be held accountable the same way you hold others accountable. Traditional journalism, while a competitive battlefield, has no absolute authority and is quite often a brotherhood with shared goals that hold each other accountable to mutually agreed upon standards.
So this is a pretty big call out to Steve at Gamers Nexus. And don't get me wrong, the videos Steve has been doing have been incredible. The EK one, the NZXT one that he just launched, these are all really in-depth pieces that they spent a lot of time researching. And the stuff on Linus did have validity. There were a lot of things. But there are some things I also did agree with Linus. In particular, that water block situation that got way blown out of proportion, they ended up paying them back. Would have that had happened if Steve didn't make the video? I'm not sure. It would be hard to say. Probably not. So this is one of those things where it gets a little bit dicey with this kind of stuff. I'm not going to play this entire video. Again, it is like 22 minutes long or something, so it's linked down below. But I do want to mention a few other things. He did not threaten him, but he did bring up defamation and how much it could have cost the company. Not like saying he's going to go after Steve, but basically saying, hey, we're aware that this is a thing. But he thinks it's not a good idea to both waste all that money, going through lawsuits. But a lot of times when people say stuff like this, it's kind of like a very loose threat. And so Linus, I don't know. You can listen to it yourself, and you can take what you can get out of it. I'm not gonna go and play it here. It was just a moment where he's talking about lawsuits and that kind of stuff and saying defamation. But Steve did already release a comment on this. He actually posted on his Gamers Nexus channel. So we're gonna look at that real quick right now. So I'm not gonna lie, I started reading through this and I was like, this is a large amount of information. This is something that, again, I will have linked down below, but there are a few major pieces of information in here that I want you guys to see. So first of all, he's providing the receipts of all the mistakes that Linus made. As we just said before, he was kind of saying there's some defamation going on. And Steve not only provided emails, but he provided like literally text messages going through everything here. This is pretty wild. This is a lot of information to go over. I've never seen this much come out between two tech channels. This is wild. This is a first for me. But yeah, so this is a pretty big one here too as well. Gamers Nexus believes that these receipts answer the demand to provide them to support our statements that Sebastian has a history of unprofessionalism in prior communications while still maintaining the maximum possible integrity of the privacy of the conversations. If publicly requested by Linus Sebastian to produce further evidence, Gamers Nexus is prepared to publicly do so. That's a shot fired back, and I'm just going to say that there. Please read through this. This is pretty wild, but where do you guys stand on this? Are you a person who defends both of them? I mean, in my personal opinion, I think they both have the right to kind of call each other out. There was definitely some stuff that's a little fishy on one side. I noticed that, again, going back to Gamers Nexus separating their channels, it feels like because they're doing more of this investigative style of content, they're maybe a little bit worried that they could get like a channel taken down or something. And I'm not saying that they're wrong for doing that. I actually believe that this is the best idea. I'm surprised they haven't already, at this size that they are, have multiple channels around. LMG, on the other hand, has too many channels. I think that they were pumping out way too much content back then. They still kind of went back to pumping out a lot of content. Let's be honest. Like, they're pumping out stuff all the time. I went back and checked out their channel. They're still doing a lot of videos every week. And if they're like not doing them on the main channel, they're doing them on the side channels. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for the video. If you liked it, drop a like, subscribe. See you guys next time.